Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. I'm John DeWanzik. The time is 6:30 p.m., and this is the regular meeting of the Avon Lake Board of Municipal Utilities. With us tonight on the board are, to my right, Mr. Ricky and Mrs. Schnabel, and to my left, Mr. Rush. To his left and missing tonight is Mr. Mondello, who is out of town on business and is excused. Tonight's meeting is being live streamed on Facebook and YouTube. If you're in the audience for those things, you have an opportunity for public input at the appropriate time, which is in just a few minutes from now and later in the meeting. If you make your remarks in the comments section, Mr. Urinich, who's sitting at the table, will be keeping an eye on those. We also have in the room tonight Tyler Berry, outside counsel from Mansard Avon, and Officer Bockelman from Avon Lake Police Department. Tonight's meeting has a quorum, but one member is missing, but it still takes 3 affirmative votes for any motion to pass. All votes are taken by voice vote except for a motion to go into executive session, which one is scheduled tonight, and that will be done by a roll call vote. Do I have everything, Mr. Rush?
I believe so.
A little bit out of the usual order, but I missed the last meeting, and thank you for your able conduct of the last meeting during my absence. So going through the perfunctory now, we have general matters, which include the approval of the March 4th, 2025. The 3 of you fellow board members are better qualified than I to say whether they're an accurate reflection of that meeting. Are there any comments on that? Hearing none, they are approved as submitted by, they'll be signed by Mr. Rush when the time comes for signing them. Let's see. Next item, as mentioned, is the public speaker session. Mr. Urinich, do we have anything for that?
No comments at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The next item is correspondence, and I neglected to introduce the most important person in the room, Chief Utilities Executive, Mr. Monroe, and he will fill us in on any correspondence tonight that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not have any correspondence to pass along this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. The next item is the expenditures on the goldenrod sheets. Would someone like to make a motion to approve them? I'll move to approve the expenses for February 28th to March 13th, 2025. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ricky. Discussion.
I had a couple questions.
Okay, Mrs. Schnabel, go ahead.
Line item 13 on the first page of 701, and I think it appears again on 721. Nope, 720. No, wait a minute. Maybe it does not appear again. Does it? Hold on. Actually, maybe that one doesn't appear more than once. The repair of the central high service drive, I was just curious about that.
So at the water filtration plant, the high service pumps, the ones that pump the water out to the system, 2 of the drives, the variable frequency drives that control the pumps, they've had some issues. So that's the company that comes out and will troubleshoot those.
So that is that they are just repairs, not replacements.
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Schnabel?
I have some things circled, but now I'm realizing like I answered my own questions. So just one second. One other question I had was about the on Fund 723, line item 45, just the enunciator replacement. I didn't know what that was.
The Redmond Systems, that's our fire alarm contractor.
Oh.
So our panel was obsolete, outdated.
Okay.
The main control panel, so.
Here in this building?
Yes.
Okay. And then one more, it was on Fund 721, line item 18, the bioassay testing. Is that something we do every month?
Not every month. There's two different bioassays that they do. One is annual and one is twice a year.
Okay,
But that's
'cause I
part
was-
of the NIPID's permit for the water reclamation plant. That's something they're required to do.
Okay. That's it for me then.
All right. I'm still looking for that enunciator.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was, on, it was
item
line 45
of
on-
723.
yeah, like our second page,
The second
basically.
page.
Down in line item 45.
Oh,
Redmond
45.
Systems.
I heard 25. Okay.
Redmond
There it is.
Systems.
I would have thought the enunciator was like some special angel, before Christmas.
Well, I didn't know what it was, so that's why it caught my attention.
Anyway, okay.
I have a question.
Anyone else with comments? Mr. Ricky?
Yes, Fund 704, back page. A lot of this reclassification fund number, explain that to me. I don't know, there's a lot of money involved there, and I'm not sure what that all is.
The reclass fund number 704, the water construction fund. It looks like there was various checks that came in. I don't know specifically. Do you, Greg?
So that was, I think, to reclassify everything. And just real quick, Nick Charles had asked that same question virtually for the on-site hypochlorite generation. Those were put into, I think, their own sub-funds so that those expenses could be tracked.
So this is the Tech Wind project?
Correct.
Are we going to have a running total of what that's costing us, or do we have an estimate of what the cost of this trial is for us?
Yes, we will have that once we've procured everything.
I assume we have a budget that we're within.
Yes, we're well within.
All right. The other question I have, it relates somewhat to TechWin, is I noticed that for some reason, the guy that mows the lawn, Randall's Lawn Care, we're buying bulk salt from him. They're like, is he like a low price provider, or how does this work?
So it's yes, because it's a supply aspect of it. The previous vendor was the Rock Pile, and they no longer sell it there. So last winter, I believe the winter of 24, they Randall's, which is located right around the corner from us.
Right.
That's where he does sell bulk salt. And really I don't, the amount that we use in salt, it's not, that wouldn't be at the bidding threshold. So we need 1 or 2 truckloads for, fill the salt spreader up. We just go over there.
And we do our own plowing and salt.
Yes,
so
yes, we
it's
do.
not like he's plowing it but charging us for the salt. or
No,
anything.
it's just for purchase of the
Okay.
product.
Now, when we go to buy the salt for the TechWin system, we'll buy that from Diamond Salt, or where we get that?
I'm trying to remember who the supplier
Not
was.
Cargill,
Morton.
Morton Salt, yes. So for our pilot test, because of the TechWin had very specific makeup of
Parameters.
what salt to use in the system. They did not make, they had 2 products. In one had everything in it except for one component. The other product had everything in it except a different one. So they agreed to make a custom blend specifically for our project.
Oh, nice.
Again, we are going to be purchasing it on an as-needed basis as we go through the pilot. And if we do move forward with the permanent installation after the pilot testing, then it would be bid with our chemicals annually. We would bid the product. for
And
the
I
salt.
assume we'll have some sort of a salt dome or something.
Yes.
To keep it, probably not nothing as big as like DOT salt dome, but some container that it's kept out of
Yes,
wet and weather.
yes. For the pilot testing, I believe they're 50-pound bags is what it'll come in bags.
Right, but eventually I assume it'll be in dump trucks.
Yes, yes.
All right,
I have another question.
go ahead, Mr. Rick.
704 again, HDR, $67,894, line 12. What is that for?
So water filtration plant improvement construction services,
What are they doing for that kind of money? Just so I know what they're doing.
managing the project. We entered into we had an amendment to their contract maybe 2 years ago that they were going to handle all the construction services on the project. So
But they did the drawings for the project, correct?
They did the design. Yes.
So I don't understand a little bit. It's $15 million budget. Is that what I'm reading there? $15 million budget?
No, that's the entire project, what's budgeted for the entire project, not just HDR.
Okay, well, all right. I'm a little confused on this water construction summary here because it really doesn't tell me anything and there's a lot of money involved. So again, I'm just a little confused about that. So just be aware, but
Can we have Mr. Logan explain that at the next meeting?
Yeah, actually, it would be at the April 15th meeting. Mr. Logan is going to plan on being there for a quarterly update anyways.
Okay. Well, I was hoping
That's
we could do it
acceptable.
on the April full meeting and then, you know.
but that's for HDR. Where in this construction thing are we paying Great Lakes?
If you look at probably your previous expense report from 2 weeks ago, there was probably a payment on there
Okay.
for Great Lakes.
Is that included in these numbers then? This 15 million?
Yes, the
Okay,
entire project. That's what was budgeted that we were going to spend this year on that project.
gotcha.
It was 15 million.
And to date, we've spent 2.2 million, it looks like.
Roughly, Great Lakes, their pay applications are monthly, and those are between 1 and 1.5 million
Okay,
is what we're expecting those to come in at.
okay. Well, like I say, this is kind of vague here, and I'm just kind of curious of what is all going on there.
Well, can I ask what more information would you want on there? So
Well,
we can provide it.
So what is HDR costing us? What is that project? What is their bill? Is that a monthly bill right there?
Yeah, I think that is.
I think it was about 2 million, Mr. Ricky,
Really?
if I'm not mistaken.
It was a little under.
But I think you're in the ballpark there. Is that all, Mr. Ricky, or anything else?
Well, okay, that's fine. I'm fine. Move on.
Okay. Again, nitpicking thing, but it's really not nitpicking because when you're looking for the enunciator or whatever, these pages that are upside down make it really hard to look through the report. Like you go from right side up to upside down. or
Mine aren't
up.
upside down.
Mine are, yeah. Like
If
every
you
other
flip,
page.
if you flip that way.
Yeah, like, so you're looking at it, like I gotta find this.
Oh, I don't read that way. I read like a book.
I read like a
book.
I read like a book. So to me, it makes sense. Like it's just like every page is right side up.
Okay, you're reading it like that?
Yeah.
Left to right?
Yeah. I just,
Well,
that's how
alright.
I always do it.
Okay, I'll adjust. Mr. Rush, anything?
No, I don't have any.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion?
Mm-mm.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
The expenses are approved. All right, Walker Road Emergency Repair, Mr. Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is information item for the board as we previously reported on the emergency repair on Walker Road. And this is to close the loop as far as providing what the final costs of that emergency repair were. We provided those total costs with the various vendors and contractors that we used. These costs were paid for out of the 704 construction fund. Again, this wasn't obviously any emergency is unanticipated, but as of right now, we have sufficient funds in that budget that we paid this out of. It's possible that if we, as we get later on in the budget year, that we may need to appropriate money to make up any shortfalls. But overall, the total costs, including all labor and materials for all the various contractors and vendors, was $105,846.68.
Okay. Is there anything the board is?
Yeah,
No, we don't need any
Mr.
action.
Ricky? Huh?
Oh, I'm sorry.
we don't need any action.
No, we don't need any.
But that's going to fall into the 704 fund then.
It's already been paid out of that.
Okay. All right.
Yes, the water construction.
All I got to say is that just seems like an awful lot of money for that repair. We replaced, I mean, that doesn't include any of our guys' time, our equipment, our light plant, our excavator, our guys' time. That's got to be $130,000 project to replace 40 feet of copper 3/4 inch pipe is what that ended up costing us. That just seems extremely high to me. I'm sorry, maybe I don't understand, but could you please provide me with the invoices of each of these? I got to understand what things cost, because this has just got me concrete finishing, $9,000 to finish concrete. That didn't pump it because there's a line item for the pumping. That's not the concrete because there's $27,000 worth of concrete. Just to finish the concrete was $9,000. I don't know what a sold labor rate of a laborer is, but that just seems very high to me. Like I say, we ultimately replaced 40 feet, 50 feet of 3/4 inch pipe under a road. And it just seems like an awful lot of money. I don't think we spend that much when we have an ETL break. So, with the contractor we use there. So I'd like to see the invoices if I could, so I can understand what things cost. Maybe I'm just a boomer who doesn't understand anymore what things cost, and things have gotten more expensive than I understand. But again, and then, educate me on who approved all this. You guys approve these guys? Who makes those decisions in an emergency? Who's
Our leadership team.
You guys all made?
Our leadership team makes the decisions, but primarily Greg,
Okay,
Bobby, and Jack Adar, who are
Okay.
managing the project.
Okay. Well, like I say, to me, they're high. It's high. It's a lot of money.
And one thing I would add is, so everyone's clear, this wasn't just a 3/4 inch service line. There was several feet of the entire roadway of Walker Road because the road had heaved.
Yeah.
This was not just replacing a 3/4 inch service line. That's why there's concrete, there's stone. We also had the bridge culvert that came into play that we had to have the city engineer and the city public works director come down to give their input on whether we were going to have to do further work on the bridge deck itself, but it ended up that we did not. And also being Walker Road, which is a main thoroughfare in Avon Lake, we want to fix it right the first time. And so,
Like I say, this doesn't count the city's input. This doesn't count police escort there. I'm sure we have to pay for that.
no, this does include that
It is in there.
because it's charged to the contractor.
Okay. Well, like I say, humor me and give me invoices so I can become more educated on what this stuff costs. Because like I say, it just seems like a high number to me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I did go through the construction a couple times inadvertently, and at least the traffic control seemed to be reasonable. Every time I ride over it, what I notice is I don't notice it.
Right.
Unlike so many other repairs, they did a good job with it. As far as the cost, I'll bet you Mr. Gaydar can probably elaborate on what makes it so high, but one of the things you see the $27,000 worth of concrete, that's a fair amount, but they're using like something that is not your usual, like you would use on your driveway at home.
We have a contract price for that stuff in our
Yeah,
contract.
I'm sure that we do, but it's like expensive concrete. It's like I did my driveway apron at home and it wasn't that much, but this, it takes a couple days to set and this is like, you're putting traffic on it almost immediately. So anyway,
Humor me.
maybe Mr. Gaydar can, give Mr. Ricky all the information he needs. He probably has all the invoices and everything.
We do.
Okay. All right. Anything else on that?
Nope.
All right, let's move on then. Annual step increases, hopefully these aren't concrete steps. 'Cause anyway,
They're not.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on April 1st, as part of the collective bargaining agreement, that's when employees will receive their annual step increases. Depending upon which step it is, most of those, the first couple are automatic, as long as they're in good standing. And then after that, it turns into a recommendation from their supervisor. But these will take effect April 1st. Heather Barnes, customer service rep, will move from step 6 to step 7. Brandon Bennett, operator at the water filtration plant, step 3 to step 4. Tim Bradley, line maintenance operator, step 6 to step 7. Sean Hutcherson, line maintenance technician, step 2 to step 3. Emily Lenz, lab analyst at the water plant, step 4 to step 5. Robin Leopold, lab chief analyst, step 3 to step 4. Shannon Plum, line maintenance technician, step 4 to step 5. And Adam Schultz, line maintenance technician, step 2 to step 3.
Thank you, Mr. Urinich. Would I be asking too much to have you re-explain the steps and what happens when you get to the last step and that kind of thing? What is this, what's the frequency of moving up steps and things of that nature? What is the salary impact? Because we don't see this all the time and, it's a matter of curiosity. At least we should be able to intelligibly outline what it means.
Sure. I don't have the breakdown of what each,
No, I'm
Rate
not
of pay
asking
is,
for
but-
facts and figures, but what does it mean? You're in step 1 and then sometime later you're in step 7. What does that do each time to your salary? And when you get to step 7, do you get no more steps?
So-
just get pushed off the top? Or
step 7 is the final step. And then depending upon what is negotiated in the collective bargaining agreement, the percentage increases that would be laid out in that agreement is what a step 7 classification, that would be the raise moving forward from that.
But beneath step 7, say you're on step 4 to 5, that's some percentage of the distance between 1 and 7. Is that correct?
I don't think it's a specific
Not
percentage.
specifically, but, typically we would, for an operator, for example, we would hire an operator in based on their credentials, obviously licensure and experience. And they could start anywhere between maybe a step 1 to a step 3.
Based on their experience and what they would command in the marketplace.
Correct.
Okay.
And then it's step 1 through step 4 are the way the collective bargaining agreement is worded. Those are automatic increases annually. So
Annually,
annually.
okay.
So every year, and that's what these are. These are the annual step increases that we have to have this in so that they can take effect April 1st. That's the date. So after step 4, steps 5, 6, and 7 only come at the recommendation of their immediate supervisor, who gives them an annual performance
No less
review.
than annual.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
So it takes you in effect 6 years ago from 1 to 7.
Yes.
Okay. And that's like some fixed amount. You don't get any other raise. Does the range get raised and therefore make that step worth more? How's that work?
Yes, so for instance, I believe, was it a 3% this year or 2%?
2.
It was a 2% January 1st, and that applies to all steps of every job classification. So, for instance, Heather Barnes, she was at a step 6 on January 1st. She got the 2% increase on her at then current rate. And now she's going up to a step 7. The step 7, January 1st, got that 2% also. So it stays with the steps. So now she's at the top at step 7. Each year, whatever percentage increase is negotiated is all that she will see. There will be
Okay.
no more steps.
So a way to characterize the steps is their apprentice positions up until step 7 when you're fully realized, whatever, and it's part of the collective bargaining agreement. So
Correct.
this only applies to collective bargaining employees.
Yes, we have the 7-step wage scale for collective bargaining agreement employees. And for non-bargaining employees, we have the wage ranges. So we have a range that gets approved.
Okay,
And we, as long as we keep within that approved range, then we're good.
thank you for clarifying that.
No problem.
All right. Any other questions from the board?
Do we have to action on this, or do we have to?
No.
Nothing we need to
No,
do?
because
It's already
because
made.
the contract has already been approved.
Gotcha.
So the steps, those steps are in
Good.
as part of the contract. So what we have to do annually when we do this is it comes to the board just as an information item so that it's memorialized in the minutes.
Well, I congratulate all these people. Obviously, they're doing a good job, and hope they keep it up.
Okay, looks like you're up again, Mr. Urinich, with project updates. I hope you have some pictures,
I do have
accounts
a
and
couple.
descriptions.
For the power plant update, even though it says no update, we had a conversation with Wayne Woodruff, the project manager at Chara. Mr. Kamevsky and I will be meeting with him tomorrow to kind of go over their getting ready to start some demolition on the main building up front. So we want to touch base with him, make sure that, they're aware of all the requirements that we would have, and just kind of get them to kind of lay out what their progress is going to be looking like.
What will be getting demolished?
It sounds like they're getting ready to start on what's left of the main building along Lake Road.
The facade that you
Mhm.
mainly see, okay.
Does that impact us really in any way?
We just have to ensure that they get their demo permit, and
Okay.
we'll go over anything that
Do we have to do that, or is that the city?
We have our own demo permit
We have it
for
done.
removal of the
Okay.
connections to the
So we don't
sewer.
have sewer manholes and stuff we have to protect or anything?
Everything would have to be cut and capped and inspected. So we'll just go over those requirements with them to make sure we're on the same page and nothing gets missed.
Cool.
What's our citywide, shall we say, expectation as far as notice to the public? There has been in the past quite a lot of interest in demolition. We don't want anybody to feel that they were overlooked in notification. So what do we expect to do? I mean, it's not us. I mean, it's
Right.
actually the city that would do it, but like some people associate the Board of Municipal Utilities and the city government closely. So being as we might be, accused of malfeasance or something worse, what is the expectation and how will notice be given and so on and so forth?
So as far as these activities, these demolition activities, there's not going to be any implosions. So it would be, your typical wrecking ball type demolitions that you would see. And that would all be coordinated with the property owner and the city. But obviously, if we have knowledge that they're going to be, for instance, taking down that main building, because they've got a sanitary sewer connection. There's 2 different water connections going into the facility. We have to ensure that things are done properly there. Obviously, we will pass along any information that we have.
Yeah, well, let's make sure that we, go out of our way to make sure that everybody that could be informed is informed. So nobody can come back and say, oh, you didn't tell us, and, I found I was coughing in the middle of the night or whatever, that we're not neglecting our duty to inform.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Urnich, please go on.
For the ETL design services, we're going to be meeting with the consortium members in May. The agreements had some updates and amendments that need to be discussed with all of those members. Do we have an official date for that? Or,
No, not yet.
but we'll be meeting out at Rural Lorraine County Water Authority's location. That's kind of a central location for all of those systems. And also discussing the rates for the years 2026 and 2027.
On that matter, do you have any pictures?
No, not for that one.
Not
So-
yeah.
We're pouring floor and ceiling, which is, that's what you were just talking about, right?
That's
ETL.
Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't go to the next part, yeah. Okay, go ahead, it's all right.
That he does, we do have pictures for him.
Okay, that's what I was
Well,
hoping to see.
Is there any change on the ETL status as far as land acquisition
The
and grants or whatever?
I know that Connie Carr was working with Bram Hall and Mr. Gaydar because of the realignment that we had in the new legal descriptions. Connie Carr had reached out to some of the new property owners because we shifted alignment of the pipe. They had requests. I guess the average person looks at a legal description and they're like, kind of, what is this? So they wanted visual, like an aerial kind of showing it. So I know that Mr. Gaydar, Mr. Larson, and their staff was working on providing those aerials to the property owners.
Is the new ETL line going to be parallel to the one that's existing? Is that the way? I mean, I know we have to get bigger easements, or is it going to be south of it or north of it, or how is it?
There's 2 sections. The first section is going to be the suction line that feeds the pump
Right.
station. That is going to basically, for the most part, run parallel. It's widening the easements perpetually and also for construction, temporary.
What do you require for an easement for a line that big? I don't know what what do you?
The perpetual is 30 feet and temporary
Each total or each side?
each pipe.
Each pipe is
So
30.
we
Okay.
currently have a 30-foot wide easement on the existing. We need an additional 30 for perpetually. And then for temporary construction, we need 60 feet. So that would be 15
Really?
on
You get
either
a
side.
temporary easement? Is that how that
Because we have
works?
to access their property.
No, I understand, but I didn't know there was such a thing as a temporary easement. And then you have to make it back the way it was when you're done, but
Yes,
then that easement disappears when the project's over?
the temporary does, yes.
Really? And that's for the entire length of the pipe we're doing?
Yes. So that's the suction side. And then as we head south, where we had to do the major realignment because of the issues with the railroad, that goes over to Moore Road, and that's all going to be in right of way. So that's public right of way. Again, it all needs to be memorialized in the legal descriptions. And then the ETL 1 on the discharge side that goes from the Moore Road pump station east all the way over to Lear. Originally, that was basically following the same alignment of what's there. But there were several parcels that were owned by the railroad, and we're moving off of those. So the legal, because we're trying to avoid having to deal with the railroad at all costs.
So this pipe will be rerouted around, it won't parallel the same, we have easements right now with the railroad.
We do,
Okay.
yes, but we wouldn't be able to fit the new pipe in those easements.
Okay.
So we shifted even further to the south onto other properties. Because again,
Doesn't
the
it-
issues with the railroad.
Doesn't the state get involved in something like this? I mean, I would think we're a public entity. Why would the railroad be such a pain to deal with? They're not a private entity either. You know, they're
They're-
subsidized by the government.
They're their own animal. They really
Okay.
are.
They
Just
are.
doesn't seem
As
like
a
it's,
matter of fact,
Yeah.
they don't even have to use professional engineers for they're like military bases. They're exempt from professional engineering requirements. In other words, it is believed by whoever wrote these standards that like they know more about what they're doing than somebody that you would
Really?
hire to do, which is whatever. I'm not to say both the, Army Corps of Engineers and the railroads don't have their own professional engineers, but they're not required. NASA would be another one, like, there's not necessarily somebody in NASA that says, that is a PE. They don't have to report to the building codes the same way as the other people, which is gonna lead me to the thing that's on the screen. This is gonna be some very heavy, floors and ceilings. Do you know what the pounds per square foot requirement is on this? It's gotta be like a factory or like the power plant that's being torn down, which is why it's so expensive to tear it down, because it's massive, But you want it to hold up. Water is pretty heavy and there's a lot of impact on, pipes turning corners and things like that, but I'd be curious to know. So maybe when Mr. Gadar is looking up the things for Mr. Ricky, you can tell me what's the standard that's used for a water treatment plant. I don't know, is it a factory? Is it a industrial use, special code section? I don't know.
See what I can find out.
All right.
So this is the chemical feed building that is being constructed at the water plant. This was the temporary second floor level that they had set up. Those are, I guess, horizontal structural braces. You can see the forms being constructed there. That is going to take the building to its final height. That is what they're currently working on now. Previous meetings, we had shown the temporary second floor that they had put up to finish those forms for the support columns. The next picture shows that they're actually doing some of the pouring there. Currently, they have about half of those vertical columns poured. The rest of this week, they're going to be working on I believe it's 8 additional columns. And then that will be the top height. They will have to form another temporary work area to pour the ceiling for that building. So the top of the rebar is going to be that building's final height.
Okay.
And so this is the additional filters, the new filters that are being constructed. On the left, you can see that they've done some cutout into the existing filter building. That will be, I guess, the walkthrough area in the basement. Obviously, the circular holes, that is going to be the continuation of the process piping. On the right-hand side, that is where they're going to be doing the chlorination for the disinfection of the new pipe and the pressure testing. That's just a temporary setup that they have there. So they're making some good progress on both of those. Any questions on that?
I have a
Yeah.
separate
Go
question.
ahead, Mrs. Schnall.
Did we ever hear back about what they did about the area that, like I don't know if I'm using the right words, like the shale or whatever was,
yeah, stabilization.
So you can kind of see on the right-hand side of the first picture, that was where it was found that there was not solid shale underneath that.
okay,
The change that we ended up making, so that pipe was going to be accessible from the basement originally. What we determined is, there's plenty of pipe that is underground that we don't have access to. It made more sense to just basically encase that pipe in concrete so that we don't have to worry about trying to redesign the shoring, figure out structurally how the building would be affected by having that area open. That was a change that I believe actually resulted in a credit because it was going to be actually less work to do it that way. There isn't, other than the pipe being buried, there wasn't any negative change to that. So that was just kind of something unintended. The record drawing showed that it was sitting on shale. Obviously, that was not the case. So that's the nice thing about just about being done with all the underground construction and excavation. There won't be any more surprises like that.
How are we doing with our schedule on that?
Pretty close. There was a couple of those, I guess, kind of surprises that moderately delayed. There's some back and forth between HDR and Great Lakes Construction trying to determine if anything was enough to affect the timeline. But as we get more information on that, I'll obviously update the board.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Monroe, I saw you clicking on your screen. You don't have pictures of Mr. Rush and Mrs. Schnall?
Yeah, we're having some technical difficulties with their cameras right now. They can still hear them though over our microphones.
For the benefit of the public, they're still hearing it.
And our main camera feed of the room, they can be seen on that as well.
Okay. All right, and Mr. Urinich, go on with your skating remarks.
For the SCADA communication upgrade, the plans have been presented to Great Lakes Construction, and they're currently coming up with an estimate if this is something that they are capable of doing as a change order to this project, or based on what they present, we'll determine if we want to proceed that route or if it's something that we will have to bid and do separate from the construction project, the improvement project.
So help me out, why is this a late breaking issue? The Great Lakes Construction doesn't know whether they can do this. And
Is this in relation to the security measures based on the security survey and everything?
Correct. We had gone through that assessment. They had reviewed the plans that we had. We wanted to make sure everything we were proposing would be, I guess, best available technology at the time, make sure we had the proper setup. There wasn't anything that we were missing. It's something I think they're just putting together an estimate between various subcontractors that would do that type of work, if it's something that makes sense to do as part of the project, or if it would be more economical to bid that out separately.
Well, can it not be done forthwith? I mean, it seems like we're waiting for some, like, yeah, we can't do it, or no, we can do it. What, like, if you want these projects to progress, usually like get things on parallel tracks, not serial ones.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Rush?
this appears to be more of an IT issue. It's whether or not we hire them directly or we do it through the contractor that we hired to do so. Is that correct? So
The constructing of the room is more of a physical construction. The actual, I guess, OT infrastructure, that would be through Summit Office Solutions, SOS.
all right. So this is put the building together. and
This
make
is
sure all
to
the
actually
installed
construct the
components can
room.
talk to each other. All right.
And for the TechWin project, staff had gone through, done a full assessment to make sure that all of the materials that were on the inventory were included in the container. They did find during shipping, some of the PVC process tubing had been damaged. Did a complete inventory of all that. Took pictures, have communicated with TechWin, and we want to make sure, obviously, that when they come out to do their initial startup, that they have plans in place to be able to replace and repair anything that was, I guess, damaged during shipping. Nothing significant. Like I said, there was some PVC tubing that I don't know if it was just a rough ride that did snap. A couple of plastic support brackets for holding equipment, those had been damaged. So they're coming up with a plan of how they want to address those.
Okay, we on track for our startup date?
Yeah, we were hoping to have startup in March. This is going to delay us a couple of weeks, so we're now targeting April for startup. But
It's good because you'll be beyond freezing too. The little delay will help.
it'll help as far as the whole startup process. That the building that the temporary structure, it was a storage building that was on the property that we purchased from ALERG. We had that entire inside of that building spray foam insulated.
I saw it.
So that way we could, obviously control temperatures. But yeah, for the startup process, it definitely will make it a little bit easier.
And I do have an answer for you. Mr. Jack Gadar has responded.
He beamed in.
ASCE SEI 7-22 live load heavy manufacturing is a uniform load of 250 pounds per square
That's what I was
foot.
gonna guess, but I didn't. I let Mr. Gadar let his fingers do the walking through the gold book pages. So thank you, Mr. Gadar. We're glad that you're watching the meeting. Anything else on projects, Mr. Urinich?
That is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we have time for the CUE report, Mr. Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have 2 items to report on. First item has to do with our what we're calling our 2025 water bundle project. That project is out to bid. We have extended the bid period for a couple of reasons. One being the city of Avon Lake, in my discussions with Mayor Spetzel and staff, they were going to be, they have the need to replace the Hyder Creek culvert on electric. And because that is part of the stormwater system, it is eligible under an OWDA loan. So they were originally looking to have that included in their bond issue. So by having it included under the OWDA project, that's going to save significant interest. And also it's already out to bid. The design work had been done by their contractor. We do have a water line that runs under that. That was going to need to be addressed. But there's also some valve work that we're going to include that we've identified as part of our valve exercising program. So it's good news, and we're looking at, I think right now, April 16th for a bid opening date on that project.
Do we have a lot of companies interested?
Because there's several components of the bid. We have the main bid. We have the moving water meters from indoors,
that's
outdoors.
separate?
That's a separate line
Line
item.
item.
So a contractor could bid on just that
Gotcha.
part of the project. So we do have several. They had a pre-bid meeting here, mandatory pre-bid meeting. I want to say that there was 7 or 8 contractors.
Okay,
So yes, there is good,
get a good price.
good response on it. And the second item I have is I just wanted to report to the board back from my time that I spent in North Carolina at the University of North Carolina Water and Wastewater Leadership Center. That's why I was absent at the last meeting. Myself and 29 other colleagues from our sector were in this program. It was very intense. It was not quite what I expected in a good way. We had over 68 hours of classroom instruction in less than 2 weeks. It was very rigorous. But some of the topics that we spent many hours on, and this is not all inclusive, but strategic planning and strategic leadership, workforce development, decision making, efficient and effective communication, effective negotiations. We did have executive coaching as part of our program as well. And the one that really hit home is the economic impact of water and wastewater utilities in the United States. And a lot of the work that we're doing here in Avon Lake, and as we know, the importance of water and wastewater services in economic development. So it was very engaging. It was a great program. It's very top notch. And so I want to thank, first of all, the board for the support in that, and for my development, but also for the organization's development. And I want to thank staff who picked up a lot of the slack while I was gone. So,
Mr. Monroe, would this be something that members of your team could, go on other years and benefit in the same kind of way?
yes, that would be our intention. And I found that so there of our cohort, we were represented in 14 states in the United States. So from all over the country, the furthest being Anchorage, Alaska. We did have a colleague from Alaska. Yeah, but from out west, Midwest, East Coast, even Massachusetts, Florida. Several of them are not the first that attended this from their utilities. So that is our intent, that we would in the future send other team members.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Anything else on your report?
That is all I have tonight, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Any members with reports? I think Mr. Ricky, who took a little break, had something with Lord.
Yeah, he said he was at Norfolk.
All right. Mr. Ricky,
Yes.
member reports?
Yes, I do have a few things I could bring up. I did attend the Lorco trustees meeting on Thursday evening, and Mr. Mandello asked to join me, and he and I made the trip together down to the new building that houses the rural electric down there just north of Spencer. Good meeting. Saw a lot of people I haven't seen in probably 6 or 7 years. So a lot of the trustees have remained the same. They treated us with open arms and were very, very cordial to both Nick and I. So it was a good meeting. I was a little surprised. I really thought they were a little higher in numbers as far as tap-ins. It's more like 1675 or so. And I apologize if anybody saw me looking at my phone, but Gene Toy just texted me to tell me that they just received another 45 allotment or 45 sublots that have been approved. And he texted me to make sure I let you guys know that this evening. So that's another step in the right direction.
They're going to be in the 1700s.
Yeah, but they're still a long way from 2,400, I guess, is what they need to be
A lot
at.
closer than 1100.
Yeah, a lot closer than 1,100. I will say that. But Gene did text me during the meeting, and that's why I grabbed my phone just to see what he had to say. So again, I plan on getting down there at least every other month down to that meeting. So I will keep doing that. And I was glad that Mr. Mandello joined me. And I think he got he got a little feel for about Lorco and how they operate and that. I got a tour of TechWind. I ran into Bobby and I asked him, show me exactly where this thing is. So I did get a tour of the container and the building and the new water line we put in, and saw everything where it is. I didn't know exactly where it was. So now I at least know where it is. And
It wasn't you that broke the brackets, anyways.
No. I did see the broken brackets though, but I did get a chance to see the TechWind facility. So I now have a little better understanding of what we got and what it's all about. So that was very valuable. I
I did have conversations with Amy Gentry about a couple things, but she wanted to thank you, Mr. Monroe, for getting the information for the permit to the city. She wanted to make sure I made sure you knew that they have received everything and they are moving ahead. I guess the ball's in the city's court now.
It is,
Okay.
and I would say I can't take credit for it.
Okay.
Getting all of this stuff together, that is Mr. Gadar and his staff.
Okay.
They worked with Mr. Liskovic, the
Yeah.
city public works director, and the city engineer, Chris Howard.
There you
from
go.
Graham Hall.
But-
And they all collectively worked together and got the necessary information. So yes, it is, that is in the city's hands now.
Yeah, and she just wanted to make sure that I let you know that she appreciates that you got that taken care of for her. So as far as we're concerned, that is a closed issue from Mrs. Gentry this afternoon when I talked to her.
Very good.
That's it. Those are the 3 items I had. Thank you.
Well, on behalf of the board, thank you for your assistance in mentoring our newest board member.
You asked some great questions
Yeah.
on our trip down and trip back.
Right, good. Well, thank you, and
Yeah.
hopefully he'll go as time goes on and learn more.
Yeah.
So on.
And of
Okay.
course, the first thing I told him is to get a map of ETL1 and ETL2, because that's the first thing I asked for when I got on the board, because without it, you're not sure what they're talking about.
Right, well, you need that, plus you need to know where the routing of the Lorgo piping is.
Yeah.
Any other board members like to add any individual reports?
No.
Well, again, thank you for sitting in for me in the chairman position last time, Mr. Rush. Okay, next item is public speakers. Anything additional, Mr. Urinich?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that brings us to the request for an executive session. Would someone like to make the motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, but prior to making the motion, just want to mention the CUE does not anticipate any formal action by the board upon reconvening to the public.
Thank you, Mr. Rush.
Okay, I move to meet in executive session as allowed by Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22, G1, G3, and G4 to discuss the compensation of a public employee pending and/or imminent court action, and to prepare, conduct, or review negotiations with bargaining unit employees, and to include the CUE, the CUO, and a representative from Manzer Gavin.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rush. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Ricky. Roll call vote. Mrs. Schnabel?
Yes.
Mr. Ricky?
Yes.
Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. We will go into executive session when the room is cleared. Thank you, officer.